2 horses were made for the characters to utilize. Strongheart was given Destrier, and Warduke had Nightmare. Both horses utilized the trapdoor and fake legs gimmick that was used by Kenner on the Dewback and Tauntaun. The centerpiece of the LJN AD&D line was the amazing Fortress of Fangs playset. Whether by design or coincidence, the playset bears a striking resemblance to the entrance to the Dungeons & Dragons theme park ride in the cartoon. At the center of this playset was a treasure chest surrounded by a lake of lava. But that was just the beginning of trouble for your figures. Traps abounded in the Fortress of Fangs. Falling axes, collapsing floors, a catapult floorboard, a spike wall to crush trespassers, a chute into lava. This could have been the perfect playset for your Indiana Jones toys. Topped off by a massive bat monster, the Fortress of Fangs is easily one of the best playsets of the 1980s, a place where your heroes and villains will run to when confronted by the holy grail of the LJN AD&D line, the Great Dragon Tiamat. One of the coolest features of Castle Grayskull is also the most often broken, and that's the throne room. The throne room was famous in the commercial. You would turn the throne and it would open a trapdoor in the floor and send any heroes or villains falling into a dungeon, which was just a sticker on the bottom of the lowest floor. Our Castle Grayskull came, fortunately, with the level itself and with the throne, but it didn't have the often broken carpeted floor, nor the mechanism underneath that helps operate the whole shebang. I've been able to source one of these off of eBay. It has an original sticker with some weathering on it, but I'm glad that it has the vintage sticker just like the throne room does. I'm going to keep these as they are. I'm not going to change them. If a vintage sticker for me is 80% there and it's still on there nicely, I try and keep it if I can. Darth Vader is given a flat, open-palmed lefty. This type of hand was good for some things that were very much outside Vader's character, such as waving goodbye and a reassuring pat on the shoulder. I guess a choking hand was out of the question. Many of the figures were given this open-palmed hand. So many, in fact, that Kenner Star Wars figures are second to none at setting up for drill team practice and throwing up the Nazi salute en masse. The people love you, mein Führer. Ja, wunderbar.
Having fun with the Lollipop Guild? What are you doing? Say something. That's not fair. You know I can't run well. You'll pay for this.
Tomy, best known for making toddler-age toys like this truck, licensed Tron for a series of action figures that would be relatively the same scale as Star Wars and Fisher-Price Adventure People. The line was as short-lived as the film it was based on, but the toys produced are quite unique and are of outstanding quality. Tomy's Tron line consisted of 4 action figures and 2 vehicles. The figures were the character selections you'd expect. You had Tron, Kevin Flynn, Sark, and Warrior. All of the figures stood at about 4 inches tall with chunky proportions similar to Adventure People, and the semi-transparent blue, red, and purple plastics made them look like action figure-shaped candy.
Ooh, I love ring pops!
Illusion is the ultimate weapon. That was the tagline, and the toys don't disappoint on that level. Many look like actual vehicles. The Thunderhawk is a Camaro, the Raven is a Corvette, the Manta is a Nissan 300ZX, the Gator is a Jeep CJ, the Hurricane is a 57 Chevy. The engineering of these vehicles is impeccable. The Rhino and the Switchblade are 2 of the biggest showstoppers in the entire series with their scale and spring-loaded features. Then there's Boulder Hill, the gas station that becomes a fortress against Venom in a series of awesome transformations.
2 screws here. These are where the Diaclone figures would have sat in the original toy in Japan. We're going to take these 2 screws out. For the purposes of doing Transformers disassembly, especially Optimus, I would recommend a dedicated small screwdriver. The interchangeables have a hard time getting into some of the nooks and crannies of G1 robots. Also, when you're doing this final part, don't use the legs as a pressure point. Like, don't have the toy like this and put pressure on it while you're doing the screws like this. It'll just put pressure on the hip area, and you don't want that. So I'd pick the toy up like this with my thumb underneath the front bumper and put pressure on it that way. The Imperial Troop Transporter was one of the first times Kenner forayed outside the lens of the Star Wars films. They decided to make a vehicle that was in the spirit of Star Wars, but not totally, authentic to the movie's props and vehicles. But I think it works really well, and now I've heard they've actually included this vehicle as canon, as they call it, in the new Star Wars Rebels television show. I was finally able to get the underbelly off of this Imperial Troop Transporter through a little bit of spirited coaxing, but I managed to get it off of the vehicle without doing any aesthetic or structural damage to it, which was a real, just nail-biting experience for me. As you can see, this is not your average set of Star Wars Kenner electronics. This is extremely complex, and now I've got to figure out why it's not working, how to test it, and how to get it all back together. Alright, we're going to shut the camera off so I can take another break. And instead I just twisted the spindle from the top with a pencil eraser. I also took the pencil eraser to the contacts of the battery compartment and just cleaned those off a little bit with a pencil eraser. They look pretty clean, but it's always good to use a pencil eraser just to get off some minor oxidation that might have accumulated. Make sure you're laying it flat. You want that record to be flat. And that's one of the most important things when you're talking about toy restorations. If you're getting to a point where you're getting frustrated or you're stymied or you just don't have the solution, you need to walk away. Don't keep working on it. Walk away for a few hours, sleep on it like I did, come back, look at it again, think about it, don't pick up a tool. Sometimes just staring at it for a while helps.
I think they suck. I think they are pure marketing trash. I don't see any soul in them at all. They are not aimed at kids. They are aimed purely at adults, and they are aimed purely at our nostalgia center. They are aimed at our wallet. And I know that the jaded person will say, well, all toys are aimed at your wallet. And that's true, but at least toys that were meant to be toys serve a function. These are just marketing run amok. I've had offers from, different loot crate, type things to market on Retroblasting, and they would send me, a box every month that would have a pile of random junk in it, and one of them would be, one of these pop vinyls. These various loot crate style services try to court you as a YouTube channel, and then they say, well, every now and then you'll get a pop vinyl in there, and I'm like, whatever. I don't care. I don't want one of these. You wonder why other toy companies' prices are going up because plastic is getting more expensive? This is the reason right here. Companies like this are wasting plastic that could be used for actual legitimate product, and they're pumping this crap out. On Christmas Day, 1984, I received Spirit, and so did my little brother. These two figures are the very same Spirits from way back when, bought at the same store on the same day. I couldn't begin to tell you which one was my brother's and which one was mine, but you can see one thing. One has discolored badly, and one hasn't. Both of these Spirits were in the same toy bin, and both were exposed to the same temperatures and conditions for 3 decades, which included hot attics, cold crawl spaces, and 3 years of long-term, non-climate controlled storage. In 1995, I organized my toys and bagged up the action figures. These Spirits were each placed in a Ziploc food-grade storage bag on the same day and put in the same shoebox where they've been for the better part of the past 20 years. Never displayed, always stored. Clearly, one discolored and one didn't. But if it was the acid from the Ziploc bags causing the discoloration, wouldn't 20 years of storage have discolored them both? Apparently not. Diversity prompted heroes: Samurai, Apache Chief, and Black Vulcan. Well-intentioned in 1978. But now, awkward. In a casting coup, they secured Adam West himself to voice Batman, taking over for Olan Sewell, who had voiced Batman throughout the Super Friends series up until that point. Sewell would be given the role of Professor Stein, one half of Firestorm. In the series, Darkseid has an obsession with Wonder Woman and is desperate for her to become his bride on Apokolips. With his cohorts Desaad and Kalibak, he makes numerous attempts to kidnap her and destroy the Super Friends. This is quite the departure from the rest of the Super Friends series, in which Wonder Woman is just part of the team. Now she's the object of Darkseid's desire, a heavy course change for the series. For what would be the final season, Hanna-Barbera went in whole hog, abandoning the animation style they'd used since 1973, and all but replicated the Jose Garcia Lopez comic artwork in animation. The characters were now in direct comic action combat with Darkseid's robotic minions.
Babe? Have you seen TV?
No, I haven't seen him since before the move.
What? Didn't he ride with you?
I thought he rode with you.
So, then this happened. Ugh.
Kenner's effort on their DC Comics line is second to none. The colors were vibrant and the capes were real cloth, with all of the appropriate details, even Superman's yellow S, which is always omitted these days. The name Superpowers called out the main focus of Kenner's toy line, the action gimmicks of the figures. Every character had a mechanism built in that would activate with the squeezing of an appendage. For most of the figures, you would squeeze the legs together and they'd punch their arms back and forth. Alas, the resulting 80s dance fad didn't last long.
Alright, so after several attempts, I got one of the small rubber bands around the donut. So what I do next is I take another small rubber band and just kind of snap it on there. You sometimes have to kind of pull the donut very gently, just sort of tug on it to sort of help guide it a little bit closer to the direction that you want. Sometimes you can sort of push the hair. If there's a bald spot, meaning the donut is kind of showing through, you can kind of move the hair on the donut very, very carefully, use a light touch, and just sort of guide it. The hair sort of tucks up inside the donut, the ends of her hair, so if you sort of pull the donut just a little bit away from her head, it allows the rubber band to slide underneath there and sort of pull those loose ends down or up inside this part of the donut.